Hey everyone, today I just wanted to talk about random forests. It's a term you guys probably heard quite often in the AI space. And yeah, it's something I heard a lot about, but I had no idea what it meant. And it sounded pretty scary coming from a software engineering background. Um, it just reminded me of the nightmare of data structures and algorithms and whatnot. So anyways, I found this really cool website and I just wanted to make a video on random forests to demystify what they are and what they do. And I plan to kind of skim through this article really quickly because I want to keep the video short because I know I can ramble a lot. But I invite you guys to go check this out. It's called MLU-explain and it's on GitHub. The URL's right here. Um, I'll leave it in the description of the video as well. But anyways, this is just explaining the background to it. And what this what this doesn't show is that there's been other studies as well. One of them being already in the early 1900s. I want to say like 1905, 1910, something like that. There was one guy who theorized, um, he created a theorem basically that if a lot of people guess something, that the average of their guesses is probably going to be the correct answer. And the reason that he made this, or I should say, the way he tested this was by going to a fair and seeing what a bunch of people guess the weight of an oxen was. I think like maybe like hundreds of people, and some people guessed too high in weight, some people guessed too low, but by the laws of math and statistics, the average of all their answers was actually pretty correct. And there's a proof for this, a math proof. I don't remember off the top of my head, but you can look that up. And the reason I'm starting off with this, and I guess the article is starting off with it too, is that it's kind of important to have a randomized forest rather than a single tree. Because if a single tree is not accurate, that's gonna simply be inaccurate data or or I should say an inaccurate outcome. But if we can get these random answers and get the average, then we're going to have a higher accuracy. Not perfect, but pretty darn good. So it's showing here how we can interact with the number of trees and see how the accuracy changes. And ensemble is like just a word for like the collection, I guess. So let's just play around. Let's put how many trees? I guess we could just have 5 trees for now, and we could see how the accuracy changes based on the count. So you're seeing these 3 dots, which are showing the tree count and how much the accuracy improves. So if the tree is, let's say, 86% accurate. No, actually, let me make something more realistic. Let's say 75% accurate. If you only had one tree that's kind of accurate, it's not as useful as an ensemble of 5 trees that are 75% accurate. Because if you have 5 of them that are 75% accurate, your final answer is going to be 90% accurate. So, um, as it's showing here, the more the more random guesses you have, I shouldn't say random guesses, but the more predictions you have, the the more accurate your final answer is going to be. And that's what we want. So that's why we want a bunch of trees rather than one. And I know I didn't cover what the trees are, but we will get to that soon. I just wanted to make that clear. So I'm not going to go too into detail with what this picture is showing, but I think that one thing we want to uh, to, I guess, formalize is the fact that the idea of having a bunch of these random trees and then sampling the data to get the average is formally called the bagging method. And as I explained, it's saying here the multiple samples from the training data uh, creates the data to build each tree. And that's something I didn't talk about yet, and that's a very important part I'm going to highlight. So multiple samples from the training data. So that's the reason that's important is because we want each tree to be looking at a different subset of data. We don't want all five of those trees in that example above to have the access to the same data, or else they're probably going to have the same exact guess. So rather, we want to have each tree look at a different, maybe different rows in the data or different columns in the data, and then come to their own conclusions and then find the average of all of that. So, yeah, the bagging method, also known as the bootstrap aggregating method, randomly draws a fixed number of samples from each training set, as I mentioned. And yeah, it could hypothetically be repeats of data or different sliding windows, I guess. Like we can reuse the same piece of data, but the whole idea is just to be random, you know? And yeah, I think this little animation here does it pretty well. Check this out. See, even though we repeated this, what is it, an octagon or something, it's still valid. We can still reuse it. It's not like you can only use one shape once per tree or what, I mean, once in the whole forest, I guess. But rather, we can just take random stuff and just throw it in the bag. So I'm gonna kind of skip this part. I'm gonna let you guys read that more later if you are interested to take a deeper dive. But I wanted to talk about how the trees work now. So these bags, the contents of these bags are going to have to be used to create the tree. And the tree in random forests are literally all binary. So think of them as a bunch of nodes that ask yes or no questions. Um, so for example, looking at this data, you could ask, does the shape contain the color blue? Yes or no? And then does it is this shape then another node could be a leaf node could be like, is this shape circular or does it have edges? And then you keep asking questions until you get a really accurate predictor of what the data is going to be. And I'm going to go more into detail later, but I just want to pause there and just observe the idea that these trees are really simple. They're just a bunch of yes, no questions. Like if you were a kid, if you played the whatchamacallit, the 20 questions game as a kid, it's like that. Like the little machine asks you one question, yes or no, then asks you another question, yes or no, and it keeps asking yes or no questions until it guesses what you're thinking. So kind of like that. Think of that. Um, so that's a good visualization there. Each tree is creating a guess. And look, one said no, but two said yes. And look what's going to happen. So the majority, which is the average or mean, is yes. So our final answer is going to be yes, even though one of them said no. So again, this is something that you guys can do on your own time. I it's really helpful actually, like just looking at the shapes and seeing how it kind of goes through. And I feel like it's just so nice to see everything visually. Um, so yeah, I think that one more thing I wanted to cover about the trees themselves is that we need to remember that Each tree, the way it um, creates its nodes are by creating splits in the data. And I think one thing I probably should have mentioned earlier is that random forests, we typically use them for tabular data. Think of like Excel spreadsheets or SQL tables or whatever. And we might split each column into a subset of rows. And the way we're going to create an ideal node is by looping through every value in the row, or sorry, in the column, and finding the most ideal split that creates the least standard deviation. And in case you guys don't know what standard deviation is, I didn't know until a few days ago myself, is that it basically tells us how far away the data points are from a specific point. I believe usually we could use it with the mean. So, for example, you could have two bags of data or something like that, and one bag could have like values that are very extreme. Like some are extremely positive, then extremely negative, and they might have an average of zero, but the deviation's quite high because the numbers are really big or really small. Whereas you could also have um, another bag with all the values being more close to zero, and the average would also be zero. So standard deviation basically helps to differentiate how close the data points are hugging a specific point. And yeah, uh, that's pretty much it. It's really easy. That's why I actually wanted to make a video. And I invite you guys to read this article. It goes way more into depth than I went into. But I just really wanted to make this video because it's just such a cool topic. And one last point to close off this video is that in a professional environment, deep learning usually wins for these machine learning tasks, but specifically with tabular data, you're probably going to really appreciate a random forest because that's probably going to win. And it's easier to um, not screw up a random forest compared to a deep learning model. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching and see you next time.